Hi guys, welcome to episode 2 of Q-Tips with Techie Cari. Today we're going to explore translating Google Docs, and once again we're going to focus on how it helps students, teachers, and administrators. So let's get rolling. Okay, we are inside of a Google Doc, and we are going to translate this doc to a different language. Now, what I've created is I have just a short little Google Doc called All About Techie Cari. I have a table in here with some clip art. Now, in the past, when it came to translating docs, you had to go on to the web, you had to find a translator, and then copy and paste everything back in, and then completely redo your document. Now, the cool thing with Google, you do not have to do that. So, once you have your original doc all nice and pretty, you're going to go up to Tools, and then you're going to go down to Translate Document. And what it's going to do is going to ask you what you want your new document to be titled. So I could call this Spanish version of Q-Tips. Okay? And obviously since I typed Spanish, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to find Spanish. And then I'm going to hit Translate. And what Google is going to do is going to keep your original copy, and then it's going to make a brand new copy with the name that I just gave it, and it's going to have it translated. So now I have my same clip art, my same images, my same table. Everything looks just the same except it's been translated. So let's talk about how we can use this with students. I share this at every single training that I do. I would love to see students create Google Docs and then translate them to a different language with a group of pen pals. I think that would be really authentic for those kiddos to have another group of students across the world that speaks a different language and to be able to translate docs back and forth with them. Let's talk about ways that teachers can use this translate document. So there's two different ways that I suggest using it. The first way is to communicate with students. So oftentimes teachers have students that come to their classrooms and they do not speak the native language. And I have found that some teachers don't have a way to communicate with their students for days and sometimes even weeks. So if you're having a hard time translating and just speaking to a student, anything that you tell your students verbally, go ahead and quickly type it in a Google Doc and then translate it. And then you can share that translated doc with the new student. The second way to use the translate feature is to communicate with parents. So as a classroom teacher, you probably have a couple of different languages that you have to translate to. So you would just take your original Google Doc and translate to those 2 or 3 different languages. Now you could also do the reverse. You could send a questionnaire in the student's native language to parents, and that parent could type in their questions in their native language. So let's say that I sent this Spanish version to a Spanish-speaking home. They could reply in Spanish. Now the cool thing about Google is I can revert back a document that someone else has typed in or sent me, and I can go back to Tools and I can translate back to the original language. So if I had parents fill out a questionnaire in their native language, I could go back and I could translate back to English and I could look at their responses. So that's another cool way to translate and communicate back and forth with parents from the teacher point of view. All right, so let's talk about administrators. Administrators and teachers often have the same problem. They're having to communicate with a lot of different parents in a lot of different languages. So what I suggest that administrators do is when they're sending out newsletters or information to parents, they have their normal version or maybe their native language, which would be English. And then they're going to go down and they're going to put hyperlinks to all the different versions. They're going to have their secretary look up, maybe their counselors look up what are the different languages that we support that our children speak at home. And then they can have one Google Doc. They're going to have hyperlinks to all of the translated versions. So those parents are getting the English version so that they can start maybe learning that version with their kiddos. And then they're also getting a link to their native language.